My greatest fear growing up has always been living in the shadow of my father. Whenever anybody met him, they would immediately say that he was a super intelligent guy and he was this great communicator. So I knew early on that anything that I would try to do would be completely different, and that anything I did exactly like him would be pale, in comparison, and I wouldn't be able to follow in his footsteps. So I had a lot to live up to. He had this great storied career. He was very poor, dirt poor. He would pick fruits and vegetables growing up to support his thousands of brothers and his thousands of sisters, and all the while using that money to go to school at night, of course, backwards, walking to school with his eyes closed, middle of the night. Very dramatic stories. And I knew early on that, okay, I'm just going to do my own thing. But he was able to turn all of this great communication into a military career, where he actually rose up doing IT, doing communications in the Air Force until he retired as a Air Force colonel. So I knew that moving forward that I would have to figure out some other ways to make him proud of me. And one of the things that he would do is he would talk completely differently at home than he would at work. He would be more like Clint Eastwood, where he would choose his words carefully, choose very few words, and they carried more meaning when he said them. So there was one opportunity where my parents actually were going out of town for 2 weeks for a vacation, finally, because their careers never allowed them to go out of town. And in his classic Clint Eastwood type way, he simply said, "Son, you're in charge." And then he would simply tell my mother, "Sugar," he called her Sugar, "let's go." But that was pretty much it. I thought this is something that I could do. I mean, my father would not be there. I would be in charge. So, it was my time to shine. I decided to have a little party, not really a party, a gathering. One of the perks of my father's military career was this military officer's house. And it was fairly big. But the thing with a military community, it's a very small knit circle. So when you kind of say something, it spreads very quickly. And by the end of the night, before the whole thing was over, literally hundreds of people had come in and out of this party. But I was trying to channel my father. I was thinking, I'm going to try to stay in control. Let me do what I can to maintain order. What would my father do? So in my 18-year-old mind, which doesn't develop as quickly as a girl's at that time, I decided to guard the fridge. I figured, let me guard the fridge, and everybody can only have one beer an hour. And I literally, I actually, and I hate to say this, but I actually had a little checklist of only the people that I knew, but everybody else I kind of monitored, But, it's one of those parties that no matter how much you try to maintain control, it just spiraled out of it, where every room was like a different type of sitcom. There was this cute little blonde girl that I kind of had a crush on at the time, but every time I tried to go approach her, somebody would call me, "Curtis, there's drugs upstairs, man." And it was just a girl with the flu taking her medicine. So back to the blonde girl, running up to her, and Curtis, they're making moonshine in the bathtub. I go up there, and of course, it's just a buddy of mine had borrowed some vodka from his father's liquor cabinet. Back downstairs to approach the girl again, and finally somebody calls and says, "Curtis, you're not going to believe this. There's an orgy going out back." I go back there, of course, it's just a guy and a girl talking behind closed door. But there were a couple things that did happen that night. The neighbors were calling every 15 minutes increasingly, saying that the noise was too loud and that they were going to call the cops. And also, the base commander's daughter was there, and she left way past her curfew and way past her one beer an hour max. So before you knew it, the place was surrounded by base cops. Like dozens. Lights flashing, everything else. They barge in the door. They ask, are there weapons? Where are the weapons? We hear there's drugs, there's moonshine. And I'm thinking, I'm done. So they grab everybody and they take us to the base station. Of course, my father was called urgently by the base commander to return from his 2-week vacation immediately. And I remember when he drove up. I heard the car come up, the keys jingle, the door hit, and I'm sitting on the couch thinking, this is it. I know I permanently ruined his career. I know that, there's a permanent stain on his record and that he's going to be disappointed and I would never have his trust again. He walked in and he said this. He said, son, are you okay? And I said, sure. And that was it. We literally never talked about this thing again. Not a word of it. I knew then that my father, he cared more about me and my family than he did even his storied military career. Well, my father passed away last month. And whenever I go visit my mother, I will walk up to her. And she will literally go, Curtis, you got to take off your shoes. You walk just like your father. And I realize now that I'm in IT, Maybe I can do this communications thing. That's why I'm up on the stage today, because my father blessed me with every opportunity to literally even follow in his footsteps. Thank you for letting me share my story.